We're going to go right into it right now.
Heather. Yay. Okay, let's go into it.
Is that important to you to know everybody's name?
Well, I just like to be nice and polite and just know everybody's name.
Just be a person.
Yeah. Well, I meet a lot of people, both, the deceased and
the
living on Earth, that I just try to keep straight of everybody. Yeah.
Well, so that's what I'm really interested in. Like when you walk into this room and you look around and I'm introducing you to people.
Yeah.
What is going on in your mind? How are you taking in that information?
Well, for me, everyone thinks it's like when I come in, I'm automatically bombarded by spirit. For me, sometimes it's like that. It depends on the situation, where I'm at, who I'm with. But a lot of times it's more of once I'm spending more time. Like usually I have to be around people for, at least like 10, 15 minutes. And we could be talking about the weather. It doesn't really matter. But once I'm kind of in their energy, we're talking, I hear their voice, that's usually, if I choose to open myself up to spirit, that would be when it would happen.
So ultimately, is it a choice? Like,
it is ultimately a choice, yes.
So where are you at right now?
Right now, I don't hear or feel anything, which is nice for me. It gives me some sanity.
Of course. I can imagine.
I could not live my life constantly being like on, is what we'll say, is it's like, because it would just be, I'd go nuts. It would be constantly being bombarded. And it was kind of like that when I first started doing this work, where everywhere I went, I was like, open book, like for spirit, like anybody come to me, and it would happen everywhere. And then I was like, not like I still don't love doing what I do every day, but when you've done it thousands of times now, like
it's different.
You crave turning off the lights and having it be where I can go to get lunch, or I can, go to the library and not constantly be hearing spirit.
Does that take years of training to be able to turn that off? Like, is that something that's coming naturally with this entire gift?
No, it is something that you have to develop. Like, it is part of having this gift, is kind of learning, kind of setting the boundaries with spirit. We'll joke and kind of call it lazy mediumship for the mediums that are like, I can never turn it off. It's like, you can turn it off. I mean, I will say that even when I'm like, oh, the lights are off, spirit, sometimes I'm trying not, like, I'll be trying to get through the whole day without doing a reading, sometimes just have a break, and I'll still end up giving a reading. If they're really pushy, or the person that really needs the healing, like their loved ones are coming through. Because I always say spirit comes through strongest for those who need it the most, not necessarily who want it the most or are just curious. So that's kind of when that'll happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned other mediums in this last answer. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts on the other mediums in this world?
I mean, I haven't really gotten a chance to meet all that many mediums. Like, I kind of have, I have definitely a respect, for those that are genuinely gifted and do this work, for the right reasons. I'm the first one to admit that there are a lot of people who call themselves a medium, or that they say that they have gifts, and they're complete frauds and con artists and liars. And that's sad, because they give us a bad name, like the ones who are gifted and
it hurts
are genuine.
Everything.
Exactly. We get lumped into that category of frauds and so forth, because of the people who kind of give us a bad name. But, there are some other mediums in this, work that I really look up to, really admire. I kind of call her my medium mama, Maureen Hancock. She's actually on an episode of Monica the Medium. She's amazing, and she's a medium from Boston, and love her. So
now, do you get connected with someone like Maureen early on? Like, okay, let's go back to when you first tell the world that you're a medium, and this happens in high school.
Well, I didn't tell the world that I was a medium in high school. It was when I first realized that I have this gift, but I still suppressed it for a long time. Because,
okay, that's it.
Yeah. So in high school, growing up, I was intuitive and empathic, but it really wasn't until high school that I was like, okay, the things that I'm feeling, sensing, seeing, hearing, all these things that's coming from spirit. It really started, I'd be around certain friends, acquaintances, and I'd get all choked up and emotional around them. It was with this one girl in particular, every time I'd be around her, I'd start to tear up. At first, I thought I was gay, because I was like, why am I feeling all these feelings? And I just didn't know what it was. I was like, what is this? Like, maybe this means I'm gay. But then I realized she had lost her mom in third grade, and she'd tell stories of her childhood. Every time, she'd be saying, this memory or sharing a story, I'd hear or see it before she'd finish telling it. And so it's kind of like that started happening with more and more people. But you're struggling with all the things in high school, trying to be quote unquote normal.
Of course.
I did not kind of come out of the medium closet until the beginning of college.
So who's okay?
Does sound like being gay.
No.
It is. It's like you come out. And I remember posting on my Facebook in college, like the first time I announced it kind of publicly to the world, I made this whole long status, like, this is who I am, like, this is what I do, I'm a medium. And it really felt like that. It was just
By the way,
coming out.
I love seeing those when other people post statuses in the same vein
on
Facebook. I really enjoy them. Even if I don't really know them, I like them anyway.
Yeah.
They're very, I'm picturing it now.
Yeah.
Okay, who's the first person you tell that, like, one, that you're feeling weird stuff?
Yeah.
You know, who do you go to? And then who's the first person you tell when you're ready to tell, again, not the world, but to tell your social circle, this is my deal. This is who I am.
Exactly. I think the first people that I started to kind of tell that I had been experiencing some of these things were like the friends that I had been feeling spirit around and so forth. And then probably the next kind of group of people would be like my sisters. I told my sisters pretty early on, and then my parents were the very last people to know,
really?
Which is funny. Like,
why was that?
Because, well, it's a funny story how my mom found out. I had not told her. I'd kept it from her. She comes from a very conservative Hispanic Catholic background. She's from Costa Rica, born and raised, and she's just, you know, I knew she would have a hard time with hearing, you know, about my gift and everything. The way she found out was the last way you would want your mom to find out. You talk to dead people. I was home for the summer from college, and I was in my room, and I was on the phone with somebody. I gave one of my friends I was kind of giving them the lowdown of everything that I do as a medium and everything. And my mom was walking by in the hallway, and she like overheard, and she completely eavesdropped on the entire conversation. And I remember going downstairs, and as soon as I saw her face, I knew that she had heard the conversation. She was crying. Her face was in her hands, and you're talking to that devil, Monica, you're possessed. And I'm like, oh my God, Mom, I did not want you to find out this way. I had this whole plan. I was going to sit her down, gently kind of try to explain to her. Yeah, it was not a great way for her to find out.
Did she like eventually come to terms? Like,
well, it's something you'll see. You'll see that on the show. The season of Monica the Medium, kind of, you know, we show it all, like, you know, my everyday life, and also the fact that some people in my family, some people in my everyday life have a harder time coming to terms with it. She's come a long way. I think she'll always have that part of her. She's never doubted me and my ability. She never thought I was a fraud or a liar. She just was worried, is this coming from God, or is this coming from a negative energy disguising itself as a positive spirit? Like, she was worried if this was, you know, okay.
Where do you think it comes from?
I think it's a gift from God. I absolutely think it's the most positive thing, because when my mom started putting these ideas in my head, like, what if it's coming from the devil and all these things, she did start to get me to wonder, like, oh my God, like, started to put ideas in my head. So I started like praying. I'm like, God, like, this is not from you. I think you could trump any negative energy, like, make it so that I'm not right, make it so that, like, the spirit doesn't come through with their names and how they pass and their personality, what they look like. Like, you know, I was like, I don't want to have this if it's not a positive, good thing. And if anything, my gift just got stronger. And I feel like now more than ever, with how many times I've done this and time again, seeing, you know, how positive it is and how much healing it brings to people, there's just no question that it's, you know, a good thing.
So, okay, this is all really recent for you, because you're only 21.
I'm only 21. Things manifested and developed and strengthened with my gift in a matter of, you know, just a few years. It really got strong for me. So started in high school, but as far as, like, you know, using it in a public way,
of course,
really, it's been fast.
How do you go from the Penn State medium to being with the largest agency in the world and having a show that airs every Tuesday, 8 o'clock on ABC Family, Monica the Medium? How does that happen? And also, like, I'm assuming that happens when you start taking on public clients or hearing stories, right? What is that, giving consultations? What is that called? What is the lingo on that when you sit down with someone who is on your waiting list? Yeah,
so it's kind of like having a small business. You know, it's, you know, I do my work out and about spontaneously for free all the time. But when I was in college, what would happen is I was still I worked for Lockheed Martin for 4 years, starting in high school as an intern, and I worked for them as a co-op. So I'd have my laptop and I'd work at school while I was taking classes for Lockheed Martin. And I'd go into, we call it the hub at Penn State, where there's restaurants or seats to, like, do your homework. And I would be sitting there typing an essay, doing homework, and it would turn out, like, out of 40,000 students, whoever would end up sitting next to me that day also working on their homework on their computer, that their best friend just died in a car accident, or their mom, you know, had cancer and just passed away, or somebody committed suicide. It's like whoever was sitting next to me, I'd end up giving these spontaneous readings to. And more people are like, you know, can you see my roommate? Can you see my mom? Can you see my friend? Just word of mouth spread. And they were like, I was like, I'm sorry, I can't see everybody. Like, I'm a full-time college student. I'm working for this job. Like, I just don't have the time. And they're like, why don't you quit your job, still be a college student, but start doing this for your work? And so it just, word of mouth spread, was seeing more and more clients. But with the TV show, kind of that happening is the craziest part. Is, you know, I was seeing clients, and I kind of word of mouth spread in State College. It's a small town. They called me the Penn State Medium.
Okay, were you seeing college students?
College students, and also townies, like adults that I would go over to their house, or they'd come to me. So I was seeing a lot of clients, but the way the TV show happened was the craziest thing, because it was probably about a year and a half ago, in the same week 3 different producers from different production companies, unrelated from each other, all found me the same week in different ways. One was like a Penn State alumni who lives out in LA, works out here, who read about me in a little article they did in the school paper.
Cool.
And like he reached out. Another one found me through social media. Like they all found me in different ways. And I was like, okay. And they all asked to have like a casual like Skype conversation, like kind of just get to know you the same Friday back to back to back. And I was like, okay, Spirit, you could not make it any more clear that you want me to at least be open to the idea of doing a television show. So I kind of met with them. Then kind of word of mouth spread amongst the Hollywood people. I flew out a month later and had 13 meetings with networks and production companies. Met with Lionsgate, and I loved them, had a great initial connection with them. So I signed with them, and then they pitched it to the networks. And I always said from day one I would only do a TV show if it was with ABC Family. So, and here we are now.
Perfect network for you.
Oh, it's perfect. The first time I ever had those Skype calls that Friday where they were kind of back to back, I remember getting off Skype, calling my sisters, and I said, you guys, I'm not a psychic. I can't predict the future, but you just have, everybody has that intuition, gut feelings. And I called my sister and I said, you guys, I really think that I'm going to end up having a TV show and it's going to be on ABC Family. And they laughed at me and they said, Monica, they just have scripted shows, Pretty Little Liars, the Fosters. They don't have reality shows. And I was like, I don't know. I have a feeling they're going to get into it. And that's where I see this happening. And so, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. So,
and where's your mom at right now?
Like where's she?
I mean, with all of this.
With all this. At first, with even like the TV show, she was still, for the longest time, since, I kind of came out publicly as a medium and kind of shared with her what I do. Every time I would tell her about a reading or I had this great group reading, I did this event, she would literally every single time like end up lecturing me, crying, like be upset. But then like, and so then to be like, I'm now going to be on TV doing this. She was like, Monica, please don't do it. And so, and from right away, she was like, I'm never going to be on an episode. She ended up being on an episode, which is actually tomorrow night, this Tuesday's, because I don't know where you're going to do it.
This Tuesday.
It's Tuesday, it's the next episode where my mom's in it. And so we kind of got her to be a part of it. And, she's definitely come a long way in that, now I can tell her about a reading I did or, experience I had channeling spirit. And she'll be like, oh, that's really cool, Monica. I'm like,
I like your mom voice.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do it a lot on the show, and then I'm watching it back, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I sound like a fool, but it's okay.
Let's go back to your clients.
Yes.
And let's talk about Penn State, and you have this giant client list, and take me back to like the first reading or session you've ever had, right? Because
the first time I channeled spirit, the first time
you sat down with someone and you shared whatever the spirit wanted you to share. Because that is such a special moment between you and whoever is sitting across from you. I mean, that's like, I know because I was not raised in it, but I lost grandparents early on, and my mom was very much into it. You know what I mean? And that's a special one-on-one experience between two individuals.
Absolutely.
I mean, is there responsibility on you in that moment? How do you feel, like as a human, not as a medium, to have that around you and to be given that?
It is a lot of responsibility and sometimes a lot of pressure on me, knowing like how significant it is.
Yeah.
The first experience that I had, other than some of the initial friends in high school where I would share what I was feeling and sensing, the first real moment that it hit me like, oh my goodness, like this is real. It's not a coincidence, not a lucky guess. It's not just, in my subconscious. Once I knew that, okay, this is absolutely spirit, was the first reading I did for a stranger. And it was spontaneous, but it was one of the strongest readings I've ever experienced. And it was for this like 6-year-old senior level engineer. I had just met him because I was working at a different location that week for Lockheed Martin, and I had told him things that there was just no way I would have known.
Yeah.
I was like, and your dad's showing me you walking out in the backyard, and he's working on a motorcycle in his shed, and you're 18, and you found him deceased in the shed, and he turns like white, and he's like, there's no one knows that. Like, there's no way you would have known that. And I remember crying and giving these messages, and I got really emotional and just worked up. And I remember leaving there that day being like, my life has changed forever. Like, I know I'm going to be doing this work for the rest of my life. And so that was kind of like the moment, the experience, channeling spirit, that hit me. Yeah. But like every day, in my experiences, you see how much responsibility. And, I've had readings that I've done where the person, had been suicidal. And just happened recently, about a month ago. I was doing press and for a makeup artist, and she told me I had already planned it. I was going to take my life. I was ready to commit suicide. And the messages from my loved ones in spirit, like it gives me hope to like hold on and get help and not make that decision. And so it's like, it's It's a lot. And I think with the people who are skeptical or they're haters and these, it's like, how could you hate on that? Like, how could you hate on the fact that, what I do, you might not believe in it or understand it, but like, if it has that ability to help people that way, like, why would you be against that?
At the end of the day, it's positive and not negative.
Exactly.
Yeah. What would you say to people who like don't really believe in this kind of stuff?
Yeah. Well, I say to people, I would have a hard time believing it too if I wasn't the one experiencing it on a day-to-day basis. It is hard to wrap your brain around, like how it's even possible. But what I say is, it's like, if you're open and, I can at least have you kind of start to look at things a little bit differently, be a bit more open, like plant that seed of hope, then at least like I know I did something. I can't. Most of the skeptics, if they do have a one-on-one experience, they're usually not a skeptic by the end. But I can't do that for every skeptic. And I'm not going to try to go out there to try to prove myself to every person. I can only do what I do to bring healing to those that want to receive that, And
I think it's the one thing that sticks out to me, right, is one, a show like this being first, for me in my mind, the first time ever being geared to a completely different generation of individuals, John Edwards or Monica Long Island Medium.
Yes.
Like, they're all going for my mom, you know what I mean? Like 35 plus. And even going back to like when you were reading kids, on the college campus.
Yeah.
Is that weird that you because think about it, you're their peer. You're
absolutely
going through college, all this shit you have on your plate.
Exactly.
I mean, you go through a natural state of depression just as a teenager. You go through all this shit. Like, that's crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. But I also think that's one of the reasons why I've been given this gift to share and use like at a younger age. Because when you first start doing this work, a big struggle that I had at the beginning is why me? Like, I'm not a Mother Teresa. I'm not the Pope. I'm not a saint. I'm not, I'm just a regular girl. I do everything that every other 21-year-old girl does. And I'm really normal. Like, even though I do something that's not necessarily so normal, I am a normal girl. And so it's hard to be like, well, why me? Why did I get this gift? But I just had to get into that mindset. Well, why not me? Because I see how much good, it brings people, how much healing it gives people. And then when you start doing it more and more, what I notice, at least with the college kids and doing readings for, they would tell me so many times, the ones especially I would do spontaneously out and about and my scheduled readings, they'd say, I've always wanted to have this experience, but I would have never done it had it not been someone like my peer, like someone like you, because I don't think I would have been comfortable going to some, lady who's like, in her like dark basement, it's like creepy, and like, they like the fact that I am just like them, and it's, I'm very relatable, and I think
different.
Exactly, and I think that's one of the beauties of Monica the Medium, the show. It's like, it's one of those shows that absolutely, people my age and even younger can watch, but they can actually also watch it with their parents.
Exactly.
Like, it's a show that mom and daughters can watch together, which
such
I think
a perfect show
amazing.
For ABC Family.
No, it's great for ABC Family. Yes.
Are you nervous to now be on TV? Because I feel like this is before it was at one level, right?
Yeah.
Which is still pretty crazy.
This is next level.
This is like on another level.
Yes.
Because a lot, either it can work so beautifully in your favor, right?
Yes.
Or with every great things, there comes a hater or a group of them. Are you prepared for everything and anything?
I mean, now that we're coming up at the 4th episode airing, it's been a couple of episodes. Yeah. And I've definitely seen the fact that, there's pros and cons with being on this type of platform and such a large scale now, and
of course,
versus the little small town. And I think the biggest thing is that obviously with what I do, it can be controversial because not everybody believes in it. A lot of people are quick to, without even watching the show, which not knowing me, never experiencing anything for themselves, they will go right to being trolling and she's a fraud, you're taking advantage of grieving people, all those things. And I've just learned, not to read that stuff. It's not worth my time and energy. I think the biggest thing it's kind of not makes me nervous, but it is kind of hard, is that it's just now happening where people are starting to recognize me, and like I have a hard time saying no to people because I want to help every last person. But like sometimes, especially when I already have a full day of like readings, when they're like, oh, do you have a message from my grandmother? And I'm like literally just trying to go get dog food for my puppy and like leave. That's what I'm having a hard time with. What
do you say in that moment, right? Like, do you say no? How do you play that off?
It depends. If it absolutely, like, I will just get that feeling or that sense, okay, if it's like, okay, I'm with a mother, or I just met a mother who lost a child, like, I'll take the time and because I can feel just how much she needs it. Not to say that other people's loss isn't as significant. Everybody's loss is significant. But it was, one of the things kind of my media mama Maureen told me is sometimes you have to disappoint others to stay true to yourself. And I would just, I would never have any time I would never have sleep. I would never sleep at night if every person who's ever asked me for a reading, if I was able to do it to them. And so I have to just be, gracious and thankful, like, hey, I appreciate you, wanting to have that experience with me and connect to your loved ones, and trusting me to have that experience. But, unfortunately, like, I'm about to go, wherever, and I'm not able to have that time right now. But I try to give them the little, tips of, this is what you can do to look out for the hellos from heaven and the signs and symbols. And, it's another reason I did the show is because I can't meet with every person individually. But I think by watching it, you can find comfort. You can relate to some of the things, some of the ways, some of the loss that some people have faced and, you might connect to. You can connect to some of the messages, and it still brings you comfort even if you aren't the person individually receiving the messages.
You got any questions? Anybody else?
What exactly are you feeling or seeing or hearing when you're doing these readings? Like, do you see ghosts or can you hear people talking to you?
So for me, I will hear, feel, see, and sense things coming from spirit, but it's not the way that I see you guys outside myself. I don't communicate the way that you and I communicate. When I see them kind of in my third eye. Like I'll see like a flash of an image or a little movie playing. It's not like HD television. It's like a little bit fuzzier. When I'll hear them in my thoughts voice, kind of like the way, that you'll have a thought. And, I'll physically feel sensation. So I'll get kind of dizzy with like a drug or an alcohol overdose. I'll feel like cramps in my stomach if there's like a bowel or colon cancer. Like I'll physically feel sensations, and then I'll also feel emotions. I'll feel the emotions of spirit. I'll feel the emotions of the client. And so I'll sometimes get like emotional myself. But so it's kind of a combination of all these things happening that I then kind of, I'm able to be like, okay, I'm hearing this name, Bob. I feel, that there's a grandfather stepping forward. He's communicating because I can't breathe, that he's showing me smoking. He passed, so it's kind of like all these things coming at me that I put together to interpret as the message for my client.
How emotionally tense are you after a reading?
It can be pretty draining. And don't get me wrong, I love what I do. And it's kind of one of those things that's very energizing in the moment, but it is kind of like running a marathon. You're like, it's very rewarding. It feels great when you're done, but you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm exhausted and I need to go take a nap. So that's another reason why I can't give a reading like to every last person out and about who's asking me for a spontaneous reading.
Of course.
I can't, because I would be so exhausted that I wouldn't be able to get through my day. But so it's just kind of, it does take a lot out of me. So that's why you kind of have to more so, at least I've come to this place, is, when people truly need it and it's not like they're just curious or they just really want it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, do you believe in like those ghost hunting shows where they're setting the little traps and everything? Is that anything similar?
No,
well, it's like she's like talking to them and can feel them, and these people are searching for them.
But I'm not communicating with ghosts. So I'll clear this up. So I'm not in the paranormal activity space as far as like a Ghostbuster, ghost hunter. I don't connect to earthbound energy. So a ghost is kind of more so a soul that hasn't been able to transition, cross over to the other side, heaven, whatever you like to call it. They're kind of stuck here for a lot of different reasons. They might be kind of stuck.
Yeah.
I don't connect to any of that energy. And a lot of times people are like, how come you're never bringing through this like horrible, mean person? I'm like, because I won't connect to that. Like I strictly connect to those that are safe and at peace in heaven. So I don't do any of the ghost kind of stuff. I don't like to any of the hauntings. That's not for me.
Okay. Jill claims that she is okay. What is this exactly, Jill?
I just Zach. No, they're making fun of me. I was just saying that I've been told by other mediums before that I'm like sensitive.
Oh, very empathic. Have you heard that? So when you feel the emotions of others, kind of soak it in, and feel it as if they're your own. If one of your coworkers are really grumpy or like really sad, maybe they're not outwardly showing that, but you'll feel it and kind of bring it home with you, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
What?
Do you take my anger and bring it home with you?
I carry your anger everywhere.
I mean, I think to a level, everybody has that part of them that we are feelers. We can be empathic, but there's just some people kind of, maybe you are, and like me, that are more empathic and kind of feel things stronger. And that's a good thing, I think, to an extent. It just can sometimes be like, there's just a flip side to everything. It can be good because you can be there for your friends more by really feeling what they're going through. But at the same time, like, you kind of have to protect your energy so that it's not so draining for you that when you go home, you're like crying and you're sad. Yeah. You're like, ew, why do I feel like why do I feel depressed? Nothing even bad happened today. And it's because sometimes, you need to protect your energy and not soak that up.
Do you recognize like other mediums? Like when you meet other mediums, like do you know right away?
Usually. And sometimes when I don't, I'm wondering, does that mean they're not legit? No, I'm just kidding. Usually, yeah. I've had instances where in an event of 100 people, I went right up to the woman. I'm like, oh, your mother's saying that you're also a medium. And she was like, yep. And she, I'd never met her before. And so, so there are a lot of instances where I can get that sense where I'm like, your loved one or somebody's communicating that you have the gift that I do, but you've suppressed it or you don't share it. You're more kind of afraid by it, et cetera. And they'll be like, yeah, that's exactly what So I do get a sense usually, kind of the people who have that same gift.
How hard is it to have friends and a social life?
Pretty hard. Well, here's the thing. It's definitely hard in itself being a medium and trying to kind of weed out the people who aren't friends with you for the right reasons kind of thing. It's the same thing with dating or regular friends where it sometimes, they'll be like, let's get lunch. It's been so long. Let's catch up. Yeah. And I think they genuinely just want to hang out with me as Monica. And then we meet up for lunch and all they're talking about the whole time. So is my aunt around me? Is my grandma around me? Like who has messages? What do you feel? And I'm just like, I thought we were just catching up having lunch.
You just want to talk.
I just wanted to chat. I just wanted to, I just did that all day. Like, I want to have like a break where we talk about what was on the latest episode of The Bachelor. Like,
exactly.
let's just talk about
normal human conversation.
Yes, it's like, can we just be like 21 and just hang out and have fun without it always having to be about me being a medium? And so I think that's the hard part. And it's the same thing with guys. It's like, either but it can be different where they think I'm an absolute nut job after they find out that I talk to dead people and they want nothing to do with me, or they might like me for the wrong reasons and they want to parade me around to all their family and friends, almost like I'm like a magician at a party. I'm like, pull out your tricks. It's not like that. So it's like, it's definitely, it's hard to find people who are just like genuine and like me for as much as me being Monica as me being Monica the medium. And then there's the whole aspect now with being on television. It's like a whole other category of people. It's like, haven't talked to you in 5 years and they're like, they're coming out of the woodworks. Yeah. Exactly.
They want a piece of Monica the medium.
Yes.
Haven't spoken to you in a decade.
Exactly.
Let's hang out.
Exactly.
Okay, with dudes and dating guys, like, have you ever been on a date and just, like, hypothetical situation.
It's probably happened.
You're on a date with a guy, right? Maybe you're out to dinner, you're going to the movies, you're walking to the mall, whatever. Mm-hmm. And you're getting, spirits are coming to you. Mm-hmm. And they're coming to you, obviously looking to talk to whoever you're on a date with. Yes. Do you suppress those feelings? Or do you come out and you're open with them?
I've had like every scenario that's happened, basically.
Really?
I've had times where, but it's not so much like on a date because in college, like we don't really, it's more like we're hanging out.
Of course.
Apart. Yeah. It's
hanging
like
out,
Netflix.
hooking up, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, watching Netflix and
watching
chilling.
Netflix. I was about to say,
yeah
Netflix
AKA
and
not doing
pizza.
Either. Yeah.
But
we get you. We're there.
But the thing is, I've definitely experienced every last thing where, I might be hanging out with a guy and I totally have no filter and I'll call it spirit vomit where it just comes out of my mouth and all of a sudden I'm bringing through their grandma and like we were having like this like, kind of, hot vibe and then totally he's crying and then it kind of ruins the mood a little bit. I had one guy that we totally hit it off the first night we ever met and I gave him a reading and he was like very thankful and everything. We exchanged numbers and a good pickup line though because the next day he texted me and goes, I would have even gone in for a kiss except that my grandma was watching. but I've had everything and then there's been times where like I'm like, oh, I like this guy, like maybe I shouldn't give him a reading like the first time we're ever hanging out because it does kind of fast forward a couple of steps in dating when like all of a sudden I know a lot of your personal stuff. Like
nothing says hot date like dead grandma.
Yeah, exactly. Well, guys also, one of the reasons a lot of guys will be like, oh, red flag is it's not just because sometimes they'll think I'm a nut job and then I'm like some fraud, but other guys will think like, oh, she's legit, she has this gift and I'm scared she's gonna know all the stuff about my ex-girlfriend or like all my secrets.
Because
she
they
can
don't
read
know
my
what
thoughts.
it is.
They don't understand. And I'm like, I can't read your mind. I don't know all the history of your past relationships. Like I don't have that information. However, I might hear about, a crappy relationship that you have with your dad and that this happened with your mom when she was sick when you were 5. Like, I might still hear really personal things.
You get weaved into that relationship real quick.
Yeah, exactly, which is why now I'm learning that, like, maybe I tell them what I do, because if he's going to be like, I don't want anything to do with you, why waste my time? But then, like, maybe hold off on giving him a reading until, like, way down the relationship.
I mean, like, that's like, the whole thing is just crazy to me.
Yeah, it's a lot to navigate through, and
I feel for you at a certain, like, in certain ways, because it's a lot.
Yeah.
And okay, making the commitment to become a medium full time, to leave stability, right? Mm-hmm. In Lockheed Martin, and your internship there that could have led to great things. Obviously,
it was already and that's the thing.
It was written for you. Essentially,
it was done. And a lot of people who are like skeptics or haters, they'll be like, you're just doing this to pay your tuition, or really, what a smart con artist finding an interesting way to pay for college and this and that. And it's like, or you were too dumb to have anything else going for you that all of a sudden you're a medium. I'm like, no, I had a job lined up for me. Yeah. I worked there for 4 years, even during the school year. I was working, like I said, as a co-op, and they had a job lined up for me after, like, once you graduate, we'll hire you full time. I was ready. And at the beginning, for a long time, I would have been making a lot more money with them. And it's like, I gave that all up. I quit that. I said no to that, because of the fact I was just so drawn in knowing that this work and helping people and bringing this healing, that this is what I'm meant to be doing in my life. But it's not because I didn't have anything going for me. I could have been fine. So,
and at the end of the day, like, that is a big move.
It is. It was hard.
To walk away from stability, to
Absolutely.
do something that essentially, like, you don't know.
Exactly.
You don't know. Mm-hmm. That's, I respect it.
Thank you.
Immensely. And kudos to you, friend.
Yes.
Monica the Medium, Tuesdays at 8 on ABC Family. And I got to ask, like, what are you feeling right now? Is there anything going down?
I'm just so enjoying this conversation that I haven't even let anybody pop in. I just genuinely, like, the same way where it's just, sometimes I just love, like, just hanging out with people that I don't know, just have good conversation. I'm like, not even sucked in. I'm just not even paying attention to anybody who would be here, because I just genuinely enjoy talking to you guys.
That's awesome.
Sorry, Spirit, the door is shut.
Well, this question might be ridiculous, but do these spirits that are talking to you, do they know you're being filmed so they don't speak?
Well, that's actually not a bad question at all, because this happened.
It's not a bad question. It's a very Dan question.
It's such a Dan question.
No, they absolutely know. And there were so many times where on the show throughout the season, when I do spontaneous readings, like, and you'll probably hear it pretty much every reading, I always ask, are you comfortable? Are you okay if I give some messages from your loved ones? And Spirit actually has never brought me up to somebody out and about that wasn't open to it. No one's ever been like, ew, get away from me and spit on my face. Everyone's always been, like, intrigued or open enough to be like, yeah, what do they have to say? What's interesting is I've noticed that there have been times where they might say that they're open to it, but it could have been that they might have been, in the pressure of the moment,
of course.
In the cameras and stuff. But then what would happen is I'd be like, why, like, occasionally, it doesn't happen all the time, but very rarely, there were instances where they said they were open and I'm feeling spirit, somebody's coming through, but then it would be like hitting a wall, and it's like, okay, why aren't they talking to me right now? And the moment the camera is cut, everything, every last name, every last detail, every last characteristic, every last thing would come through flowing, and I'm like, okay, you're one of those people that you say you were okay with it, but really, now that it's happening, you would have not been okay with all these private details being on TV or just even being around people. And it's happened where I've done radio shows where it's like, private stuff, I'm feeling spirit, and I just get that sense, even without them saying it, that this isn't for live anything, this isn't, or live TV or live radio. Because sometimes, it's not like it's a negative message, but it's just stuff that it's private to you and you don't want it. So yeah, Spirit knows that what's best for their loved ones, like at a soul level, they'll know. My granddaughter wouldn't be comfortable if you bring up her miscarriage on live television. Wait till...
That's crazy.
Yeah, wait till it's off the air kind of thing. So definitely that will happen quite often.
Have you ever gotten something about somebody after the fact that have you ever gotten a message from a spirit that was really personal to somebody that you either felt like you shouldn't share?
Yes, that's happened, yes.
Really?
Yes, and what's interesting...
What type of info?
This actually happened on I did a podcast with Ross Matthews.
Okay.
And
I like Ross.
Yeah, it was great. And I was like hearing, it was the one thing that before I had gotten there, I was already feeling and sensing this in the car. I kept hearing, like, somebody has a doctor appointment tomorrow and they're nervous about it and they need to be put at ease with, like, the doctor appointment, yada, yada. But I usually don't like to bring health stuff. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to, I can only do the best of my ability interpreting what spirits make me feel, see, showing me and everything. And so that's one of those things that it's like, oh, someone's died. It's not like a negative message, but it's something that you're just worried to kind of unload onto somebody and you don't know if it's going to offend them or make them uncomfortable. So I wasn't going to say anything. And then it happened twice, like during the show, that they were talking about, so do you ever have somebody in spirit talking about like something health related or this and that? And I'm like, okay, this is a sign I'm supposed to say, something. So it's kind of funny. So sometimes I'll hold back, but then like I'll just get that sense, okay, spirit's definitely making it clear that they're wanting me to bring it up. And we did. And, a bunch of it we did off the air because it was private, but like it ended up coming through and it was great. So yeah, there are instances where I kind of hold back, but then I'm learning more and more, but that I'm like not, if it's coming through from them, it's because the person's supposed to hear it. It might not always be the right time, and maybe it's supposed to be like kind of private, pulled aside, but yeah, they need to hear it.
Wow.
Yeah. So
now, how your connection with the spirits? I mean, you're learning things every day, I'm assuming. I mean, It's almost like a muscle, I guess, in a certain aspect.
Absolutely. I always call myself a developing medium because whether, you've been doing this a year or 40 years, I think you're constantly growing and developing in your kind of spirit dictionary, we'll call it. The spirit works off of my frame of reference. Like, so things that I've seen, experienced, witnessed in my life or in people around me, that's how they can communicate. So it's like, I can't bring up a disease if I've never heard it before. Like, they can't just poof up a name of a disease in my, like, they work off your frame of reference. So I say it's like, if this is where I'm at 21, I can't wait to see me at 40 when I maybe have kids one day. Like, my frame of reference will have grown, and I'll be able to relate to more.
You growing as a person will change your relationship with the spirits.
Absolutely, and will help me grow as a medium and the messages that I can deliver. I do some of my strongest readings are when it's to like another person who's 21 because I so get what spirit's making me feel, and when I'm here, like when the soul's coming through that was young that passed, and the person that I'm giving it is right around our age, like it just flows. You know what I'm saying? Not like to say that when I'm channeling like a child who's passed, like it's not going to be as strong. It's definitely strong, but I know that that'll strengthen when I one day.
It's a human connection that doesn't even...
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's
interesting.
Something that, develops and grows and changes over the years, I think, depending on where I am in my life.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Where do you see this all going?
Like,
Monica the Medium as a brand, like what... what is, like, do you think about 10, 15, 20, 30? I mean, do you see other mediums and how they've grown their brand and who they are and their identity? Where do you see, what is the end game? And who do you go to kind of guide that?
Well, that medium mama, Maureen, she's been such a blessing to me and kind of helping me kind of through the motions of kind of what to expect, especially now kind of being in the public eye more and everything. But really for me, kind of thinking in the future of like 5, 10, 15, I have no idea. Like, it's funny because leading up to at least the first season of this show, like my intuition, my gut feeling was kind of right on with everything. I knew it was going to be ABC Family, that we were going to get the pilot, and that this time we were going to get a full pickup. Now it's kind of like I've hit a wall and I don't know what's going to happen. But what I can say is I will be a medium whether it's on TV or off. Say awesome. That they decide, okay, it was a great run because the show's doing great so far. Everyone loves it. It's really great reaction. But we don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but that doesn't really matter to me. It's not like I'm doing this and that I'm a medium for TV or for fame season, or anything. No, that's not what's important. I do this ultimately to share my gift, and having this platform to reach the masses has been amazing because I know so many people who have experienced what I've experienced and thought they were crazy, or like Monica, you've helped open my eyes to the fact that like this is a beautiful gift. I don't have to be afraid. Like I've had the responses from everybody, and I just, like I said, I know I'll be a medium whether it's on TV or off, and I don't know where life will take me, but taking it one day at a time.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you call home right now?
I don't really
Nowhere.
Well, I'm from Northern Virginia, D.C. area. Been living in State College because I've been going to Penn State the past few years. I do love California. I always wanted to kind of move out here after college, so I don't know when or kind of I don't know timeline right now.
Do you graduate this year or next year?
This spring would be when I'm supposed to graduate. I am a little behind in school.
When are you going to graduate now?
I don't know exactly. I'm probably like about a semester behind.
Okay, that's not bad.
But I do have the ability, if I want to, I can take kind of the Penn State classes online if I need to. So it's like I don't want to be like 25 and still like in State College. So so even if I have to take a little bit longer, like I'll find the way to finish it. At this point, it's like I've already put so much time and energy, and that's the one thing my mom's asked me is like finish college.
Of course. Yeah. Hell yeah. They're working with you, which a lot of colleges don't do often. Like that's really cool.
Yeah.
Monica the Medium, Tuesdays at 8, ABC Family. Anything? No mediums? No spirits?
It's going to be like right as we turn it off.
They don't want us. They don't want us.
No, it's not that they don't want you guys. I mean, like I said, spirit comes through for who needs it the most, not necessarily who wants it the most. So like I literally won't start to feel somebody coming through, at least in these instances where it's like I have a lot of stuff going on and a lot of press in a day, just because it's just so draining. But if it's like, you know, it's happened where live on the radio where I was like, the lights are off, but every single person, one girl lost her dad, one guy lost his 5-year-old son, like everybody in the room lost somebody that was like, no offense to grandparents, but it wasn't just like, oh, my grandma, you know?
Exactly.
So
grandparents, you know, that's literally every person's stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not that grandparents aren't important, but when you do this work and you've done it 1,000 times, time and time
grandparents
again,
are always it.
It's just that like this is where I have to sometimes disappoint others to stay true to myself. I have to save my energy if it is just going to be, you know, like.
Of course.
Not to say granny is important, but like.
Of course.
That's where you do sometimes have to kind of pick and choose when you're going to spend the energy if like the person's really have somebody close. Not to say you guys don't. I wasn't letting it in. So.
All right, before we go, questions around the room. Anybody?
It's just creepy.
It's just creepy. It's not creepy. It's beautiful. Have any of you guys seen the show?
I've been watching trailers. Okay. I got to watch it on. Here's the deal. I'm going to be honest with you. My agents are going to hate me because maybe I've been talking to ABC Family too.
Yes.
I'm not like, I'm an online guy. I'm an Apple TV guy. And ABC has not made the move yet to getting an app. So I need to.
They do have an app.
On the Apple TV?
The Apple TV, I don't. But they have an iPhone app.
I got to do that.
It's on the iPhone, iPad.
Because I can connect it to my cable back in New Jersey and watch.
Yeah. It's on Hulu, iTunes, ABC Family app. Yeah, so.
You're connected, dude.
It's connected. Yeah, I think you guys would enjoy the show watching it.
I binge watch Long Island Medium, so I know I'll enjoy the show.
Yeah. Well, this is different. It's like more of our generation. So.
That's what I want. Yeah. But that to me is important because I think, again, raised in mediums. Like that was it. Like my mom was always attracted to John Edwards and going to those group meetings, and she was always getting readings, but it was just so a part of like that lifestyle for a very long time for me. So the everything around it just fascinates me completely.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm excited. I'm going to watch Monica the Medium Tuesdays at 8, ABC Family. Thanks for coming in, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Blast. Thank you guys.
You were great. Thank you.
You're awesome.